Welcome to SVG-TV News on Monday, October 23rd, 2023. I'm Rochelle Batiste with the details. Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves today presented a summary of the fiscal operation of the central government for the period ending September 30th, 2023, which he said shows the country is moving in the right direction. According to the Prime Minister, the country is moving in the right direction on the production of goods and services, job creation, increase in wealth, improving living standards, and inflation. He pointed out that total revenue and grants for the period up to the end of September 2023 increased by 9.2% over the same period in 2022.
We had budgeted for current revenue and grants to be $564.3 million. We are over the budget, slightly over what we budgeted. But what we have collected in revenue and grants is 9.2% more than what it was last year at this time, 2022. In terms of current revenue, we had budgeted to collect $535 million. We are collecting we have collected $531 million, meaning that our numbers, we are only 0.8 of 1% off from what we budgeted to what we have actually collected. But on the current revenue, we are 9.2% also above what we collected last year. It means that the Ministry of Finance, in relation to these two matrices, both total revenue and grants and current revenue, did pretty good estimates. That's what it means. There's some other areas of estimates as to monies which you may get to fund the capital budget. You will fall short. But as we will see, we have been doing well on the capital side also.
Capital revenue and grants also went up by 9.1%, and total expenditure, recurrent and capital, saw an increase of 7.4%.
Significantly, we had a 6% increase in wages and salaries in terms of as a component of the recurrent expenditure. On the capital, that's the total expenditure. On the current expenditure, we are up by 8.3%. Total expenditure, we are up by 7.4%. Current expenditure up by 8.3%. The capital expenditure, we are up by 4% over last year's number at this time. But our number, which is now $126 million by the end of September spent on the capital, there's some that I happen to know there are several matters who have not yet come to account on which spending has taken place. And we are going to, in November when we go to Parliament, we are going with a $74 million supplementary estimate specifically for the port. The money is already there, but we had not wanted to bloat the number. And the way the fellows have been proceeding with the project, we need more money to address what is going on. So we have to go to the Parliament for it. But it's not additional financing, it's just additional budgeting. You understand the point I make? Otherwise, we have to go and look for the money elsewhere. I may have to go to Parliament, more than likely I also have to go to Parliament to exceed the borrowing limit which we had set in order to take account of what we have to borrow to upgrade the sporting facility that's a matter of urgency for World Cup. Yeah, that's a sporting complex. The current account balance, it's an improvement over last year. At this time, it was just over $10 million last year in the deficit. It's now just over $6 million deficit on the current account. The overall balance, it was about $91 million in the deficit last year. That is about capital and recurrent, and it's now 87. That's a summary story there.
The International Monetary Fund, the IMF, outlook for the St. Vincent and the Grenadines released during the annual meetings of the IMF and World Bank Group in Morocco recently projects economic growth of 6.2% for 2023, with a projection of 5% growth in 2024. In 2021, SVG's economy is said to have grew by 0.3% 3.3% after contracting by 3.7% the previous year and 0% growth in 2019. On the radio recently, Prime Minister Gonzalez welcomed the recent IMF's economic projections for St. Vincent and the Grenadines, saying it is not a bad report card, noting that the projections for this year, SVG is above the average for the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union at 4.7%, adding that the only country in the 15-member Caribbean Community CARICOM grouping with a larger number than SVG is Guyana because of its oil. The Washington-based financial institution is projecting that the Guyana economy will grow to 38.4% this year, following growth of 62.3% last year. Also at today's news conference, Prime Minister Gonzalez maintained that there were no legal or factual reasons stopping him from going to Canada, which he did last week for the first ever CARICOM Canada Summit in Ottawa. It was the Prime Minister's first trip to Canada in about 15 years. It had been said by some political opponents that he had been afraid to travel to Canada because of allegations made against him in 2008 by a female Canadian lawyer. Explaining why he has decided now to go to Canada, Prime Minister Gonzalez noted that although he has a U.S. visa, which would have allowed him entry into Canada, he went through the entire process to apply for a Canadian visa.
All I was trying to do all the time, when I hear the dogs barking, I say, well, their barks will collide with the reality. And they got more and more hysterical as the time came closer. So I say, okay, the barking dogs are hysterical. The caravan of the Comrade and that of the ULP will keep moving because the barking dogs can't stop it from moving, the caravan from moving. And then I say, they will have egg on their face. When the first picture appears, when I'm there hugging up my brethren, Justin Trudeau, and making joke. And then when that happens, some so barefaced rummage in the garbage bin for other reasons why I didn't announce that I was going. Well, you know, the simple reason is that I want you to see that what you were saying all the time was a lie. And when the truth hits you, be a man, be a woman, and say, well, what Ralph was saying, there was no legal nor factual reason to stop him from going to Canada.
On the radio on Sunday, PM Gonzalez rubbished the idea that he visited Canada for the Canada CARICOM Summit on the cloak of secrecy. And Dr. Gonzalez also noted at today's news conference that at the CARICOM Canada Summit, he raised the issue of visa-free travel for Vincentians to go to Canada with Prime Minister Trudeau. And while the matter remains unresolved, he will continue to press for it.
Well, the Prime Minister Trudeau, gave an answer which I'm accustomed to. That is, you know, it's a matter which they will continue to look at. There are some processes they have to go through. There are some specific points of assessment and impact and the usual answers. I know them. I know the stock response. But I must tell you this. I said to him that, first of all, I acknowledge that every country has a right to control their own immigration system. Canada has it, we have it. Other countries in the OECS, all over the world, every country has that right. So I'm not challenging that. But I made the point, which I made here on more than one occasion. I said nothing is possible without people. Nothing is doable without quality strategic leadership. And nothing is sustainable without specially crafted institutions. I said honestly, I must tell you, I find it painful to see that former Nazis or Nazis from European countries can enter Canada without a visa. But the children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren of Robert Milton Cato, who was a member of the Canadian Armed Forces, who fought the Nazis in the Second World War, that we can have a visa-free access. We either have to have a U.S. visa on which we can get an electronic travel authorization, which helps only about 10% of the population, approximately. That's the estimate. Or you get your visa in the way in which I applied for mine in order to go to the summit. I say, surely, if we want to build a people-to-people contact in this strategic partnership, remember, it's a strategic partnership. We need to have people moving.
The annual Independence Anniversary Church Service was held on Sunday, October 22nd, 2023 at the Kingston Baptist Church. Vincentians from various denominations attended the National Independence Service organized by the St. Vincent and Grenadines Christian Council. President of the Association of Evangelical Churches of St. Vincent and Grenadines, Dr. Reynold Murray, in his address at the service said every Vincentian should strive for social justice, noting that in light of the challenges being faced, some philosophers attempt to deny the existence of God.
There are people like Friedrich Nietzsche who says, God is dead. The funny thing is, if there is no God, I don't know how he died. But there is no God. And so man must create his own moral direction. Wow. The heart of man is deceitful and desperately wicked above all things. Yet he is calling upon man to chart his own course. That's the kind of philosophy we have in this postmodern age. And we listen to others, such as Peter Atkins, who will say to us, don't try to find out where you came from and where you're going. Such questions are irrelevant. Nothingness roll over into something and give us a universe with people. Intelligent people, nothingness given intelligent people. So we have some challenges. But that's the kind of doctrine and teaching that we have today that our young people are exposed to and are trying to fashion a country that way. Thank God that those who formed this nation, who put the Constitution, have a little more wisdom and vision so that they confirm, they agree that we are acknowledging the supremacy of God. And it's from this standpoint, the supremacy of God, I want to speak to us as a nation. We have made it this 44 years, we didn't run aground, we're not shipwrecked, thank God. Because there is a God. We believe in the supreme being, the supreme God.
Dr. Murray also noted that in the call for justice, there must be truth.
Truth, then you have nothing to base your justice on. So again, we must look at our philosophers who says there's no such thing as truth. There's no such thing as truth. If there's no truth, there could be no justice. So we are all just a bunch of rats eating each other up. Thank God we are not that. There is truth. There's an ultimate truth. But when we begin to look at justice, it becomes very easy for us to make judgments when we are not involved in the situation. When we are the church person on the outside, we can make very good judgments. But when we are involved in the situation, judgment becomes more blurred, the lines become less clear, and even the outcome becomes questionable. So you see, when we are not involved, we are very good at giving judgment, sticking to the truth. But when we become centered in front of the whole situation, judgment becomes blurred. What does the Lord require? That we do justice.
Pointing to the increase in the number of homeless persons on the streets of capital Kingston, Dr. Murray said it is not acceptable for Vincentians to look the other way, as each Vincentian have a duty to look out for one another.
Small, our nation is too small. God bless our homeland. What's the next line? And give us unity. I'm challenging us today. I'm provoking us to consciousness. I'm calling us to look at the place where we call home. I love this place. I'm not going to live anywhere else, I can tell you that. I will travel every now and then and go see somebody's place, but this is home. This is my homeland. St. Vincent, my homeland. I love you a million. I ain't going no place else to live. So I want to know when I walk down back street, I'm not running into the kind of problems that I still see now. Now you might ask what I did to any of these people. I can answer those, but this is not the forum. I'm not trying to present anybody. I'm trying to present challenges. So if I want to speak to us from God's word, so that our hearts and minds can be stirred up. The Apostle Paul says, I want to provoke your pure minds to consciousness, to godliness. What I want is for us to open our eyes and become aware of who we are, what we are doing, where we live, and what needs to be done in our country.
At the church service, scripture readings were done by Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves and Opposition Member of Parliament for East Kingston, Fitzgerald Bramble.
We must 5, verses 14 to 24. Seek good, not evil, that you may live. Then the Lord God Almighty will be with you, just as you say he is. Hate evil, love good. Maintain justice in the courts. Perhaps the Lord God Almighty will have mercy on the remnant of Joseph.
Colossians chapter 3, verses 8 to 17. But now he also put off all these: anger, wrath, malice, blasphemy, filthy communication out of your mouth. Lie not one to another, seeing that ye have put off the old man with his deeds.
In terms of this year's Independence Parade on Independence Day, October 27th, it will go ahead as usual, starting at 8 a.m. A change in the time from a morning to an evening parade was under consideration following a request made by the parade commander to shift it to 5 p.m. due to the heat wave affecting the country. On the radio on Sunday, Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves said it is just too late to make the change.
And I just want to say that we have decided to keep the time for the parade at 8 a.m. on Independence Day. While the police made a plausible case for changing the time given the excessive heat over the last couple of weeks, and would be also as predicted for Sunday, the 27th, it's just too late to make the change for this year. We'll have to give consideration for persons to discuss it a little more fully. And it may not be changed at all, but to give time for a fuller discussion. And it, as I said, it came by too late. People have already, fixed up programs. They up in the North, we know the matter of the Madongo Festival. Other people have activities that you have already arranged. Diplomats coming in on the evening of the 26th and want to leave on the evening of the 27th so that they can do the parade in the morning. Diplomats from other countries. So there are too many things.
In other local news now, we hear that the ongoing farm labor support program conducted by the Ministry of Agriculture over the past year has sparked a significant change in crop production as productivity in various areas has been recognized. This is according to Minister of Agriculture Saboto Caesar while speaking at a recently held news briefing at the Ministry of Agriculture conference room. The initiative is being funded by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, while the St. Vincent and Grenadines Red Cross is functioning as the budget holder for the fund.
And we have noticed a significant change in production and productivity in several areas. Over 100 persons were employed and different teams were established throughout the country to assist farmers. And this has to be assessed against the backdrop that we are still recovering from the impacts of the eruptions of La Soufrière and the vagaries of climate change we continue to grapple with. And particularly during this period, we are affected by the impacts of a heat wave. And I was advised that this may continue for the upcoming weeks.
The Agriculture Minister said it is vital to outline the importance of having multiple streams of production to ensure food security, as he announced the establishment of a backyard agriculture initiative as the final stage of the program.
The final stage of the project has to do with the establishment of a backyard agriculture initiative. And it is important that we underscore that once as a country we have multiple platforms for production, it is going to augur well as it pertains to our quest to ensure food security. Food must always be affordable, accessible, and available.
Minister Caesar said an assessment of the Farm Labor Support Program was conducted 1 month ago. He indicated that a link was provided to persons involved in the assessment to participate in the Backyard Agriculture Pilot Program.
There are many persons who, over the years, have utilized the spaces in their yards to produce, to sell to supermarkets. Some persons who sell in the villages. And what we want to do is to establish a formal agricultural supply chain whereby we are going to mobilize. We already have over 100 applicants. We are going to provide them with the seeds from the project through the Agriculture Input Warehouse, and they will be able to produce different vegetables which will be purchased and be placed in a vegetable food supply chain. This definitely is going to have a positive impact on livelihoods. We are going to dovetail this project with the National Project for Backyard Gardening, which will be established in 2024 from January, which is a part of the $10 million project for the World Bank.
The Agriculture Minister also noted that participants in the pilot program will be provided with seeds from the Agricultural Input Warehouse, and in the process, a formal agricultural supply chain will be organized through the mobilization of resources. In other local news now, we hear that as a consequence of an investigation carried out by the Major Crimes Unit of the Royal St. Vincent and Grenadines Police Force, Gibran Bailey, a 39-year-old custom officer of Diamond, was arrested and charged with 10 counts of theft. Bailey is accused of stealing $68,110.87 in cash and checks to the value of $75,182.08 between August 30th and September 21st, 2023, the property of the government of St. Vincent and Grenadines. Bailey appeared before the Kingston Magistrate Court today, Monday, October 23rd, 2023, where he pleaded not guilty. He was granted bail in the sum of $70,000 with one surety. He was ordered to surrender all travel documents and report to the Stubbs Police Station every Monday. The matter was adjourned to Wednesday, October 25th, 2023. And the Prime Ministerial Advisory Council on Youth is being launched this evening at the Methodist Church Hall. The council, led by Anson Latchman, is being launched under the theme Balancing and Experience with Youth. There will be 3 main speakers at the event: Senator Shaquille Bob, Minister with Responsibility for Youth, Orlando Brewster, and the featured speaker, Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves. A star-studded youth cast is expected to provide entertainment of the event, which is currently under its way. The other members of the Prime Ministerial Advisory Council are Deputy Chairman Rodney Small, Parliamentary Secretary Advisor Shaquille Bob, Secretary Rutan Williams, Committee members Shaquille Simmons, Rika McKenzie, Deborah Burke, Kewisi Allen, Augustine Ferdinand, and Chrisen Mafford. Now we hear that the Caribbean Single Market Economy Secondary Schools Youth Summit was held today at the NIS Conference Room under the theme You and Me United with CSME. At today's event, fifth formers across St. Vincent and Grenadines made presentations on the achievements of the CSME member states, and here an address on the topic CSME is a necessary vehicle for regional business growth and development. Teacher Roxanne Williams explained the origin of the summit, noting that it is an initiative of the Business Department of the St. Vincent Grammar School and several stakeholders.
Through the combined efforts of the Ministry of Trade and Foreign Affairs, the Ministry of Education and Reconciliation, Mrs. Latoya Dorisha John and I were selected to participate in the first ever CSME Secondary Schools Teacher Attachment Program. program was funded by the 11th European Development Fund project and ran from March 6th to 17th, 2023 in several CSME states. Trinidad and Tobago was the host country for the visiting teachers from St. Vincent and the Grenadines and Jamaica. I was attached at the Queen's Royal College, QRC, in Port of Spain, while Mrs. Dorisha John and one Jamaican teacher were attached at the Holy Faith Convent at Couva. The other Jamaican teacher was attached at the Barrackpore West Secondary. The aim of the program, according to the CARICOM Secretariat, was mainly to enhance implementation of CSME and the advocacy on the CSME in the region. My attachment at QRC was at the fourth form level, teaching two groups of principles of business students. I focused mainly on the important role and function of the CSME in fostering regional integration.
Williams explained that the CSME is aimed at promoting economic cooperation and development among its member states. She also noted that the objective of the Youth Summit is to strengthen students' understanding of the role and function of the CSME, to raise awareness of the benefits of the CSME to regional businesses and labor force, to highlight major achievements of the CSME in various territories over the last decade.
That the CSME stands for the CARICOM Single Market and Economy. In some circles, you don't hear CARICOM, you might hear the Caribbean Single Market and Economy. It's one and the same thing. It is a regional integration initiative in the Caribbean community, CARICOM, aimed at promoting economic cooperation and development among its member states. Hence, it is intended to better position member states to grow by accessing and using their combined rather than individual resources. CSME was conceived at the 10th meeting of the Conference of the Heads of Government of the Caribbean Community, which took place in July 1989 in Grand Anse, Grenada, but was only established in 2001 with the signing of what is known as the Revised Treaty of Chaguaramas. CSME is built on 5 regimes: free movement of skills or labor, free movement of goods, free movement of services, free movement of capital, and the right to establish.
Headmaster of the St. Vincent Grammar School spoke on research and added that most of the children in the country are not aware of most things which is important out of the country.
For today's summit, and if I could just briefly read the 3 of them. To strengthen students' understanding of the whole role and function of the CSME, to raise awareness of the benefits of the CSME to regional businesses and the labor force, and to highlight major achievements of the CSME in the various territories over the last decade. I look at the objectives and right there I understand that all of you have to do some level of research, correct? And research skills is so important because you can tie that when you have to do your SBAs, etc., correct? But also from doing the research, I've noticed as well, young people, that our students do not have knowledge of what happens outside of St. Vincent and the Grenadines for the most part. If I were to ask some of the students the capitals of some of the countries in the Caribbean, they might not know many of them, correct? So in your research for your presentations, I'm certain that you would have learned quite a lot. Not to be too anecdotal, but I know when I was in primary school, we had to learn the capitals, we had to know the names of the airports. You all know the names of the airports of different islands?
Also addressing the opening ceremony today was Minister of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade, Kiesel Peters, who said the event is the first of many more to come and pledged her support to the future CSME Secondary School Summits.
So we thank you for organizing this summit, where students across St. Vincent and the Grenadines can learn more about the single market and economy and how the CSME can impact and has been impacting their lives. I particularly like the theme that you have chosen, You and Me United with CSME. This indicates that we are all in this together. Each one has a role to play in the success of the CSME, and the CSME is important to our individual success. From a historical perspective, as was said before, The Caribbean Community CARICOM was established in 1973 with the Treaty of Chaguaramas, and subsequently in 1989, the Conference of Heads of Government deepened the integration process, and a key component of that deepening process was the creation of the single market and economy. The CSME came into effect in July of 2001 with the signing of the revised Treaty of Chaguaramas. The more developed countries of CARICOM indicated that they were CSME ready since 2001, and the more developed countries would be countries like Jamaica, Barbados, Trinidad and Tobago, Guyana.
66 awards will be presented at the school's Independence Rally tomorrow to graduates of the St. Vincent and Grenadines Community College who excelled in the 2023 Caribbean Advanced Proficiency Examination, as well as associate degree and teacher education programs. This year, 26 national scholarships, 7 exhibition awards, 4 special awards and 29 bursaries have been awarded. The most outstanding of the national scholars will receive the Prime Minister's gold medal and a cash prize of $20,000 in addition to the 5-year national scholarship. There are 2 top scholars this year in the person of Zicho Debik and David Dunn. The school's Independence Rally will be held at the Victoria Park from 9 a.m.